Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something quite profound, how Islamic teachings tackle social justice and equity, focusing especially on the vulnerable.
Yes, and we've looked at some fascinating sources. What really stands out is that they offer more than just ideals. They actually provide a practical framework.
A framework for justice and care across society. Exactly.
Yeah.
So our goal today, we want to pull out the key insights for you, sort of shortcut to understanding this complex topic from how wealth was handled right down to, believe it or not, how animals were treated.
It's quite comprehensive.
Okay, let's dive in.
Yeah.
First up, maybe the cornerstone, Zakat. Now, many people might think of Zakat as, just charity, a donation. But these texts frame it as something much more fundamental, almost like a built-in economic balancer. It's a core pillar designed to stop wealth just piling up in one place and make sure everyone has the basics.
That's exactly it. Zakat isn't presented as just nice to do. It's understood as a specific right that the poor and needy have. The texts we looked at are, incredibly detailed about this.
Detailed how?
Well, they lay out meticulous guidelines, really specific rules for distribution to make sure people actually received what they were due. It wasn't vague at all.
Okay, give us an example.
Sure. So the sources talk about historical calculations. Like if someone's wealth reached a certain level, maybe involving livestock, they might have to give, say, 20 dirhams, which was a significant silver coin, not pocket change, or maybe 4 sheep of a certain age.
Right.
And it's scaled. So if the value, represented maybe by the age or duration, increased, the amount went up. Like if he increased by 3 years, he would give 60 dirhams or 6 sheep. It's that precise.
Wow, that's not just a guideline, that's practically an accounting rule. It's not just give something, it's a specific scalable amount.
Exactly. It shows it was meant to be a consistent, enforceable system for economic fairness.
And there was something about the immediacy too, wasn't there? I remember reading that a collector wouldn't even return with the money if they could distribute it right away.
Yes. A person appointed to collect charity, if he came with a dirham, he would not return with it unless he gave it in charity. That really highlights the intention for, rapid distribution.
So straight to the people who needed it, no delays.
Pretty much. Avoid the bureaucratic holdups, get the relief where it's needed instantly. And this ties into that bigger theme, mutual support, shared responsibility within the community. It's systemic.
A system designed to prevent hardship from the ground up. Okay, so Zakat forms this economic foundation. But the teachings seem to go further, extending that care, right? Especially towards orphans and the impoverished.
Oh, definitely. The responsibility doesn't end with Zakat. There's a really strong emphasis on actively looking after orphans and the poor. And it's not just about money.
What do you mean, not just money?
Well, the texts stress active care. One mentions the principle of feeding the needy. It's a direct command, an expectation for engagement, not just a distant donation.
And it's not just encouraged, the opposite is strongly condemned.
Very strongly. One source explicitly says that God condemns those who withhold sustenance from the needy. That's powerful language. It really frames neglecting the poor as a serious moral failing.
So it's a collective duty. The whole community is responsible for making sure nobody falls through the cracks, that everyone has support and, importantly, dignity.
Precisely. The well-being of the most vulnerable is presented as, a benchmark for the whole society's moral health, a shared safety net.
It's fascinating how these layers build up, from wealth redistribution to direct care, which brings us to a really complex area historically, slavery. Now, obviously, we have to see this in its historical context. But what's striking is how these teachings, even within that context, introduce principles of fairness and compassion, advocating for well-being, prohibiting mistreatment.
Yes, and crucially, providing actual structured paths out of slavery.
Right.
Ways to achieve freedom and dignity. That's quite significant.
How so? What were these paths?
Well, for one, freeing slaves was sometimes prescribed as an expiation, a way to atone for certain sins. One text mentions releasing 4 slaves as expiation for specific wrongdoings.
So freeing someone wasn't just a good deed, it was tied to your own spiritual standing, a religious incentive.
A very powerful one, yes. And then there's this concept of wala, or allegiance. It's quite unique.
Explain that a bit. How did Wallah work?
Okay, so when a slave was freed, The wala, this bond of loyalty, was established with the person who freed them, the manumitter, not necessarily with the freed person's original family or tribe.
Ah, so it created a new social connection.
Exactly. It often integrated the freed person into the emancipator's network, kind of like creating a new extended family tie. This provided ongoing support and, importantly, a recognized place in society. It broke old bonds and established new ones that offered protection.
That's a really interesting social mechanism. Beyond freeing people, were there protections for them while enslaved?
Yes, there were legal protections. One text gives a scenario. It says something like, if a person harms a slave, for instance, by hitting his head with a stone, the implication is clearly that there are legal consequences for injuring a slave.
So they weren't just property without rights. There was accountability for harming them.
There was a degree of legal personhood and protection, yes, which was quite advanced for the time. And then there was another specific route to freedom, the mukatab contract.
Right. The mukatab, that was an agreement, wasn't it?
A formal contract. A slave could essentially agree with their master on a sum of money, and by earning and paying that sum, they would gain their freedom. It was a clear, actionable path based on their own effort.
So a way to work towards freedom. Now, one source does say something like, it is not permissible for a slave to possess anything without their permission. That sounds restrictive.
It does, and it defines their legal status within that system. But the key point is that the same system simultaneously offered these very specific, structured ways out of that status through expiation, through wala upon release, and through the mukatab contract. It was about rights and dignity within the context and, crucially, pathways to liberty.
Okay, that clarification is important. It paints a picture of a system with internal mechanisms for change and protection, even within a difficult historical reality. And the scope of this compassion, it doesn't stop with humans, does it? This is where it gets really expensive. It extends to animals.
It really does. The teachings advocate for animal well-being and prohibit mistreatment. It broadens the whole concept of justice.
How is that expressed practically?
Well, there's a general principle stated in one text. The killing of any living being is prohibited unless it is slaughtered. Now, this doesn't ban using animals for food, obviously, but it implies killing shouldn't be wanton or cruel. It must have a purpose.
Respect for life itself, even non-human life.
Exactly. And there are specific situations where protections are heightened.
Like during pilgrimage.
Yes. Another text explicitly forbids killing animals in Ihram, the sacred state you enter for pilgrimage. Harming animals is forbidden then, reinforcing their protected status in a spiritual context.
And was there accountability if someone did harm an animal?
Oh, yes. There were penalties. One source gives a specific example. Whoever burns livestock, his reward is lost by 1/4 of a dinar. A dinar was a gold coin, so that's a significant financial penalty.
A tangible consequence. It shows animals weren't just things. Harming them had repercussions.
It underscores their value within this ethical system. Justice wasn't limited just to human interactions.
Okay, so we've covered wealth, the poor, orphans, slaves, even animals. How does this all tie together into a bigger picture? It feels like it's building towards a larger idea about society.
It absolutely is. All these individual rules and acts of compassion weave together into this framework of mutual support and, critically, preventing oppression, making sure everyone has basics, everyone is treated with dignity.
And there's that idea of collective responsibility again. You mentioned an analogy.
Ah, yes, the ship analogy. It's quite powerful. It comes from one of the texts. Imagine people on a ship, some on the upper deck, some below. The ones below start drilling a hole in the hull where they are.
Okay, that's not good for anyone.
Right. The text says, if the people on the top deck stopped them, took them by their hands, they save everyone, themselves included. But if they just let them carry on...
Everyone goes down together.
Exactly. It illustrates beautifully that harm to one part of the community, especially the vulnerable or those acting destructively, ultimately impacts everyone. It's a call for proactive responsibility. We're all in the same boat.
That really lands the point. And this sense of order and preventing harm extends to the justice system itself, right? Even in really serious cases like murder.
Yes, the system provides avenues for resolving even the gravest conflicts without descending into chaos. We see this with concepts like qisas, which is retaliation, an eye for an eye, essentially, and daya, which is financial compensation, or blood money.
How did that work?
Well, one source explains that if someone is killed, the victim's family has a choice. His family has two choices. If they wish, they can take retaliation, qisas, or if they wish, they can take blood money, diya.
So they have options. It's not automatic vengeance.
Precisely. It's a structured approach. It controls the response, prevents endless feuds, and offers a path towards reconciliation if the family chooses dia. It recognizes the need for justice, but tries to contain the potential for escalating violence.
And there's a logic behind limiting pure retribution too, isn't there? Something about preventing false claims.
Yes, another commentary notes the danger if justice was purely based on claims. If people were given what they claimed, then people would claim the wealth and blood of others. It shows a pragmatic understanding that you need a system, rules, and options to maintain social order and ensure fairness, not just react emotionally.
So even in the most extreme cases, the focus is on structured justice, preventing oppression, maintaining dignity, and offering paths that don't just perpetuate cycles of violence.
That's the overarching message, yes. From the economic system of Zakat to the treatment of the most vulnerable, even animals, and the structure of the justice system, it's all geared towards creating a society based on mutual support, dignity, and the prevention of oppression. A truly holistic vision.
It really is a remarkably comprehensive vision we've unpacked today. From those detailed Zakat rules ensuring wealth circulation to the active care for orphans and the poor, the pathways to dignity even within historical slavery, and that surprising extension of compassion to animals. It all stems from that core idea of mutual support and collective responsibility.
And thinking about all this, it does leave you with a question, doesn't it? For you, our listener, how might these historical principles, this focus on mutual support and actively preventing oppression, how might they spark ideas or inspire approaches to social equity in our own diverse, complex societies today?
Something to definitely think about, a thought to mull over until our next deep dive.